All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Aisle. My name is Blake, here with Dewan, the co-host. And today we have Master Nick Spicer on the podcast, you all. Nick is a very dear friend of mine. How long have we known each other now? I feel like that's
You're probably one of the first people that even before I moved here, when I was visiting in like 2012, probably end of 2012, you're one of the first people I met.
Oh, wow. Jeez. So that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to cry on this podcast, so I'm going to just go ahead and... But no, Nick is a very dear friend of mine. Nick is... I know, he's amazing. He can do anything except for wrong, so I'm just kidding. But really appreciate him on here on the podcast. But yeah, he's currently serving as our, not so much worship coordinator as much anymore, but more so the college pastor at our church now. So that's what but he served in all capacities. He'll still serve, even though he has the title of like college pastor. He'll do whatever you ask him to do. Very reliable. You can't find better than Nick Spicer, honestly. So
no, you
Finn,
really can't.
I'm gonna start crying. So I'm done.
Yeah,
so I'm done.
We're not ready for all that yet.
I'm done. We're not. We're not going to.
Let's at least get 10 minutes in, Blake.
Yeah. Gotta work our way
right
to the tears.
Got to build up.
Yeah,
build up.
Great.
Yeah, it is an honor to have you, Nick. One of the wisest people that I know for the age that you are. And we were talking earlier, just kind of some of the first memories of you and I having conversations. We were at a conference for our church doing media and different things. And just getting an opportunity to sit down and talk with you. Like, I knew who you were, like, okay, that's Nick, yada, yada, yada. But to be able to actually sit down and have a conversation with you, I still remember that. I don't remember the place we were at, but I remember where we were sitting. And it was just something clicked in that moment. Like, there's something about this guy. Like, you meet a lot of people and they're not always like, for lack of a better word, they're not impressive. And not that I'm looking for someone to be impressive, but you left a mark.
Yeah.
On my mind from that moment on. And it's just been a joy watching your life over these past few years just kind of unfold. You're married, you got kids now, and then just seeing how God is using you in this season and just how you've walked through all these different things. It's been really cool for me to just kind of see as a friend up close and even from a distance of just like, look at Nick go. That's awesome.
You know? All right, that's the podcast. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah,
I just wanted to accolade you for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Nick. All right, well, we'll see you in episode 6, guys.
Basically.
No, that first time we talked, do you remember, you said it was over at a restaurant?
Yeah, we went somewhere after the conference as a team, and maybe it was like a brewery restaurant type deal. We were not drinking. Just
no, of course.
It was like,
prove it. Prove it.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but we weren't. Okay, I do remember that. But yeah, I mean, so similar to both of y'all. I mean, I enjoy having like meaningful, deep kind of conversations. I mean, I enjoy kind of just surface level stuff, but I also just love it whenever I can find a conversation partner that like, oh, okay, this person, like we can just start going for it with them.
Yes.
And so y'all both are that for me. And so that just means a lot to me, just to know that that I just have that that ability to kind of, okay, there are other people that are you know, I'm able to like bounce some of my deeper thoughts off of and just see if like if I'm just like getting in my head about something or just way off track, but like, oh no, like Dewan or Blake are kind of like in that stream too. And so
Nick is very much an intellect to you all.
Yeah,
I'm in my head. Maybe I don't know if there's a difference there.
Yeah. That's what I call it.
Something's happening in here. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. It's good to connect with the other points of reference, though. So
yes,
it's the value of conversation, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The value of friendship, fellowship, all of that plays a huge part in our growth as individuals and our growth as a community, our growth as a church. You know, all of that plays a part into it.
Yeah.
We talked about a little bit on the previous episode how important looking around you and looking for those people that you can also help build up. You know, and I feel like that's a lot of the conversations you and I have. It's just like we'll just randomly be talking about something, and it's just like, you either say something that builds me up, or I try to. I'm like, okay, well, let me try to encourage Nick in the middle of whatever it is we're talking about. So just having those people where, yes, you can have the surface level conversations, nothing wrong with that, but also having those people where it doesn't have to be some special moment to take the conversation to something deeper, and that is the beauty of a good friend. That is the beauty of being in a place where people are willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because we've had conversations about things and you're just like, okay, most people wouldn't talk to me about that, but let's go there, and also having people that you consider a safe place. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain conversations I just won't have with people because they're not a safe place,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of those, unfortunately, are surface level conversations. My wife's like, well, why don't you talk to so and so and so and so? I was like, because they're not ready for the space I'm in right now. And I think that's a little bit what you're talking about, is like having people that are ready for that space that you're in right now, and just being able to talk about stuff, put it out there, and just being able to relate and work through things. So it is very valuable to me to have those conversations that we get to have. And I don't have many people that I can have those conversations with. Blake is one of those. I have a couple other guys, but having those people in your life you can't put a price on it. You really can't.
Yeah.
I've spent around 40 years of my life not having those type of people in my life. And now that I have them, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference. So,
yeah. And I feel like there's always, like, any interaction that you have with just anybody, there's always just that potential for it to just kind of shift into that gear.
mm-hmm.
And so, like, I'm always, not always, like, a lot of times I'm like looking for that in just any conversation that I have with somebody. I'm just like, oh, there's like a moment here where we could like kind of really get into something. And anytime that it does make that shift, like, I get really excited, because there's just this kind of synergy, or this energy that kind of gets created whenever you do get into that gear. And you're just like, and at that point you're like, you could just go for hours just talking about stuff, and the conversation can develop. But like, it always is just a gift whenever I can like kind of do that with people. And some people, you're not going to be able to get into that gear with them. But I think there's more potential out there than maybe we think. And there are people that we would be surprised, like, oh, like they are willing to go there and talk at this level. And so, yeah, that's just always been like one of the surprising joys of my life, is kind of slipping into those gears with people and just seeing, what's going on in their life. And I find that a lot of times it's like, wow, like we're, on the same page, or dealing with the same things. And like, we just needed to like have this time and space to kind of just be open about it. And so, I mean, and then, stuff like this, having podcasts, and just stuff that is more intentionally setting aside space for that, is just super important.
Absolutely.
And then opening that up for other people to kind of engage with too.
But,
I mean, you guys told me to come prepared with something, and I didn't. And so I'm just like hoping that this just becomes that, and like we don't have to prepare.
No, it definitely will.
Well, I did the same thing with Brittany, Nick's wonderful wife. I've known her just as long, and we were on our way to go do the escape room, some of the worship team people. And I drove myself, so everyone had left, but I lingered back. I think I had to use the bathroom or something. But me and Brittany were just chatting, and I didn't realize till after like 15 minutes that they're waiting on me to get there. So I have to go. Oh crap! We just got like, we were just talking, and we like switched gears, and they're like, "Well, what are you like? What do you got going on?" And we're like, we start talking. I'm like, I have to go.
I know. That's the worst, is when you don't have time. Like, but there's a moment here.
Right. Yeah.
And I got to the thing. Everybody's like, gave like a round of applause, and I'm like, it wasn't my fault, but you understand. Understand.
I didn't know any of that behind the scenes. I feel bad now. I was shaming you.
It's fine. Whatever. I took it and ran with it.
You were on CP time.
Exactly. Thanks, Brittany.
So, Mr. Nick.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Kids, you have 2 of them now.
I do.
What is that like?
It's wonderful. I love it, and I love it a lot more than I expected to.
Right.
Probably like I'm talking like early 20s, like when I first got married and people were talking about, kids and stuff like that. Like, I'm just like,
I'm good.
Like, I don't want to talk about
it.
it.
Guys, it's fine.
I'm not sure how I would be with that and respond to all that. And so it was kind of just a big, like, I don't know how that's going to be for me.
Right.
But when the time came for Brittany and I, where we felt like we're ready to kind of do this, I just try to be open to it.
Yeah.
But now, kind of on the flip side of having a 3-year-old, then Evangeline will be 1 in December. Yeah, like, it's just like consistently been just like something that's been growing in me that I love every day, kind of more and more.
Yeah.
Just kind of seeing them grow and change in ways that I can kind of be there and, watch that and support that and foster that. Yeah, it's just exciting.
Yeah.
But it's, there's always the flip side of it too. But we don't have to talk about that.
We won't talk about the dark
Then there's
side.
reality. Then there's reality. I'm just kidding. The Instagram highlight reel is what parenting is like.
Yes. The highlight reel is what gets you through the rough days.
Mm-hmm.
When you're like, whose child is this?
Yes. And it gives us childless people hope, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it's not always like chaotic.
Yeah, and I still have like a very limited perspective on it, that you've got a more fully orbed view of raising children. I don't have any of the rebellious teenage phase yet.
Blacked out.
Yeah.
Or the distinct personalities coming out. You're like, oh my goodness, where's this coming from?
I don't know where this came from.
Yeah. So
I will say this. Preparation is important. And with the 3 oldest kids that we had, I was not prepared. And I can say that. I hate that I have to say that, but I was not prepared. And so there's a lot of things I learned on the fly. And at that time, I didn't really have mentors. Was just kind of in between churches at that time. So I didn't really have that support system or that fountain of information that I could go to. So a lot of it, man, I was just making it up as I go. And I personally wasn't in that place in my relationship with God to receive from him the way I do now and in raising Kaylee. So it makes all the difference, man. So the fact that y'all took time, and everybody has their own opinion on it, I think you should take time, figure each other out. And then, okay, let's bring some kids into this. Because if you don't, everybody's trying to figure out everybody all at the same time. And it makes it hard. I'm not saying you can't do it. People do it all the time. But I think the beauty of what God designed, if we're willing to follow that, it becomes a place like you're describing, like, I enjoy this, because I'm ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process is always like, okay, my kids are here now. They're bouncing off walls. Levi is a daredevil from what I've heard and what I've seen.
Just like that.
Yeah, I'm going to buy him a parachute.
Yeah.
Buy him a parachute.
And I'm afraid Evangeline is going to be even worse. So.
Yeah.
It's the adventure spirit.
You've got the stunt team. It's fine.
Adventure time.
There's money in that.
You'd be like Jackson 5 all over again.
Yes.
Shows, reality TV shows. You can sign your kids up for those. Like, look, you guys use this for good.
The spicy spices. Coming to a city near you.
But
he'll be on a dirt bike, and she'll be on the front doing like backflips off of it.
Oh yeah, amazing. She's always gonna have to like one up him. I think.
Oh yes, yeah, it will be amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, the preparation.
Yes,
and I mean, I probably wasn't prepared for. I mean, I wasn't naturally and inherently. We got pregnant with Levi in early 2020, and we all know what happened later that year. But yeah, that
cousin
canceled.
Yeah, censored. But just kind of that whole year was kind of preparation for me, and not self-initiated or self-started.
Yeah,
but really kind of, in the mysterious ways of God, His grace and His mercy, in kind of maybe a more severe and disciplinary way.
Yeah,
it was, in a sense, preparing me for that responsibility of being a father. amongst other things. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of just kind of things that I needed to deal with before I could effectively take on that role of father. And so, yeah, and I don't know why kind of God decided to give me that grace to do that. Perhaps, prayer of my mother or things like that, just other things that I'm just not aware of that caused God to intervene. And it's weird because I'm talking about like God like doing something for me and intervening, but it was like very much a disciplinary intervention. It wasn't like a positive. We talk about like God came through and God blessed me. It's like no, God came through and like had to kick my butt a little bit.
It's like
But on this side of it, like I count it as like a tremendous blessing,
right?
And just like the best thing God could have done for me, and it is. But it just didn't. I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I just had to kind of obediently walk through it and trust that He was doing it for my good.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that I kind of went through that time of preparation to kind of make sure that kind of this new role and vocation I was going to take on as father would be kind of with the best foot forward to kind of do it well.
Yeah, and you'll still make mistakes.
Yes, of course.
And we'll celebrate the wins and the losses.
Yes,
right,
yes.
With the L's and the W's.
Yes.
Long lives ahead of both of them to kind of map that all out.
Oh yeah.
I guess is the theme preparation. Is that what we're going to be talking about?
Sure.
I
mean, well, me and Nick had talked about, what are we going to talk about? What should I talk about? I really think that like your role as a dad is one of the many hats that you wear, and like I've watched you kind of like wear different hats, step into different roles. So like in the grand scheme of preparation, like how have you prepared, or how do you think you've prepared for like starting FWC, just kind of like in the band, and then like moving to help with choir a little bit, and then stepping back into the band, then band leader, and then like worship coordinator, and then like college. But how have you like prepared yourself or navigated all of that?
I mean, the main thing for me, like I've always just tried to be open to opportunities, I guess. And so, and part of this could be like a weakness too, where if I take it too far to be more of like a yes man, like that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And so I just have to watch that side of things. But in general, I tend to just have a kind of an open posture towards the future and what might kind of be my next trajectory in life. And so I've always just kind of like even going back to before I moved here and just even getting into kind of music related things in high school and youth group and stuff like that. Like that was just kind of accidental in a sense, where I was just kind of in 7th grade. We had like music class where I played guitar, got a little bit interested in that. So I continued that beyond just kind of the music class in school and got my own guitar and was taking lessons. And then that caught the attention of like our youth band leader. And so she invited me to like join. I'm like, I mean, sure, why not? And so, I mean, that's just kind of the initiating thing. And then just once you're in that world, just stuff opens up. And so that kind of just kind of kept snowballing kind of into my time here in Murfreesboro Family Worship Center, where just kind of opportunities came up, and I constantly was just kind of open to seeing where it might lead. And so, yeah, I mean, in the midst of that, there's like other things that like were possibilities for me to kind of lean into. Like I'm really into photography and kind of art in that visual sense. And there's been, a couple times where like Brittany or other people have like, said like, hey, you should like kind of maybe pursue this or like look into this. But, and there was like an openness to that too. But I don't know, there was something in me that was just like, that's not the direction that you need to go. Even though I really loved it. I was good at it. Like there's some things where like people will compliment me, like, you're so good at this. And like, I just can't ever receive that because I don't feel like I did the work to like I didn't do much work to like get that.
I just wrote out of the bank.
You don't have to work for your talents. Nick, no.
Well, no, with photography, I feel like was like the first thing where like, I like kind of sat down and like was really trying to like hone the craft of it.
You still have your photography Instagram?
It's just, my main
small plug. Go follow. It's amazing. His pictures are great.
Yeah. Like I love, landscape photography and things like that. But so, I mean, with that, I was just like, like maybe this is something that I should pursue because like I enjoy it. I like putting in the work to get better at it. But there was this thing that was just like, I don't know, holding me back from like really jumping into that. And that was all like prior. That was probably like 2017, 2019-ish, where I was kind of just like year after year, like, should I be jumping into that world or should I just keep doing what I'm doing? I had a full-time job at a warehouse as well as volunteering at the church. My life didn't really have a particular positive trajectory. Yeah, I was just kind of like floating. And so I was just like, maybe I should like start applying myself. But yeah, there's just something that just like was not letting me kind of lean into that. And so, yeah, as far as just like preparation and things like that, there's just been this openness, but also I guess maybe a sensitivity to not just pursue anything that you're interested in, but being intentional to kind of discern that and understand like, okay, like there's something that I can be learning and growing wherever I'm at, and to kind of like hunker down and just like let that form you and change you in that environment and that time, and not think of it as wasted space or wasted time, because there's been so much that I've learned in just like what could have been like kind of like just dead years, or just like I was saying, like sections of my life where I didn't really have like a clear cut direction I was heading.
Right.
But there's plenty of things that I was just able to kind of learn in those moments. And whether it was the people that I was serving with, Pastor Wayne, kind of just under his leadership for many of those years as the worship pastor, and just like, even if it wasn't like explicitly him like mentoring me, like there's that implicit just kind of viewing how he led, his way of life, his attitude, how he interacted with people that he was leading, his humility, how he honored people, like that stuff was just subconsciously like shaping me a lot too. And so just be aware that kind of you're being prepared. Every stage of your life is preparation if you kind of just take on that mindset of like, okay, there are things in this season of my life that are preparatory, and then just like be aware of that and like lean into those ways, and don't despise those things.
I think even in those seasons, like you said, like whenever you felt like it was like wasted years or like whatnot. I mean, even thinking now about your years in photography, like if you think about it, your graphic for Elevate now, which is our college like young adults ministry, is a picture that you took with trees growing up, right? You talked about that. So it's like God is still taking those years of like where you had a passion for that, like hardcore, and now incorporating it into like what He's called you to do now, which I think is really cool.
And I don't think that I need to like leave those parts of me like behind or like cut them out of my life. They can be incorporated into this, but maybe they're like subordinated to this like kind of greater.
I think that's
calling.
what God wants too. Like, I mean, like, He doesn't want to dismiss what you like. He doesn't want you to not like everything. No. Like, you can't like this. You have to do this.
All right. Put the camera down.
Correct.
Walk away.
Anything that's in its proper order, is good. The only things that are bad is whenever they kind of like take on a role that they're not supposed to in your life, and things are just kind of out of whack there. And so it's just about this kind of establishing this hierarchy of priorities. Make sure that it stays in line.
Absolutely. And I think with that is, because you said being open, I don't think a lot of people are open. Like they make up their mind, this is what I'm going to do. And they're not open to the possibilities that maybe God only wanted you to do that for a year. Or 6 months, or maybe 5 years, whatever. And so they miss the place God is trying to take them. And they spend a lot of time sitting in a place that was supposed to be temporary. And they spent 20, 30 years in this thing, and they're frustrated, they're irritated, their relationship sucks, everything sucks. And God is like, I didn't want you to stay there. We were just walking through something in that season, but you fell in love with it, and you never asked me how I felt about it. And what the plan was for that. Like, I feel like you, like there's a lot of things that I am capable of doing that people aren't really aware of, because I've done so many different things in my life. Had so many jobs or certain situations. It's like, oh, I need to learn how to do this so I can do that. So I've taught myself a lot of things. I've learned a lot of things from different jobs and different experiences, but those weren't like the landing spots of, yeah, I enjoyed this. Like, I used to do computer aided drafting, drawing houses. I used to build computers. I used to do a lot of different things, and I enjoyed those things. Um, I enjoyed drafting the most, and for a while, that was the thing. It was like, man, this is my thing. This is what's going to be it. Make a family business because I grew up playing blocks and bricks with my dad. He did that his whole life. And so I was like, man, we can turn this into, man, we just design our own houses, blah, 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 blah. And that wasn't God's plan. And it was very difficult to transition from that.
Yeah, could have had a show on HGTV.
Oh, yeah, could have.
I could have been watching it.
Man, the Lord like hard snatched me out of that.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was horrible. I was like, why can't I get a job back in here? I think it was like 2008, whenever the economy like just really absolutely tanked. And so, that industry, kind of dipped down for a little bit and lost my job. I was on unemployment for like a year and just could not get back into architectural drafting for anything. And I felt miserable because, again, it was this place of, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to build. And God was just like, yeah, we're not doing that. I have something else for you, and I'm shutting all the doors, and you're not going back in that room. And it's like, but I really like that room, God. I've had some fun in that room. I've created some pretty awesome things.
I built that room.
Yes. Like, come on. And, I had to come to the realization that I have to give control of my career up to Him. And that's when I started to be, like you were saying, open to, okay, God, so what do you want me to do? Like, if this is not the thing you're going to allow me to do, what do you want me to do? Yeah. And I am thankful that He rerouted my life, but walking through it was horrible. Yeah. It was like everything that I was hoping for was gone, and I could not find it anywhere. And so if you're not open to, maybe God wants to turn the corner or turn the page or flip the script, however you want to say it, you can find yourself in a place you don't want to be. And even though it may be checking the boxes of, well, I'm paying bills and blah, 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 ultimately that's going to be unfulfilling because you're never going to get all of the things that God was trying to make available to you. Like, I can't imagine my life not going through all the different places that I've been to, places I've had to work at, either just to make ends meet or it was for a season or whatever. And the people I've met and learned from, the things I've learned about myself in a lot of those situations have made me who I am now. And it's made me value my life and other people's lives so much more. And opportunities, I mean, even like this, to just be able to sit down and talk, about whatever, doesn't matter. Like, whatever is going on with life, whatever's going on with each other individually, they're important to me now. Whereas before, and we talked about this on the last episode, I was just looking at my life and what I could be and what I could do. And at one point, it's almost like you've seen the moment in movies where the kid or the young guy, he's just looking down, is like dejected, and then somebody just kind of lifts his head up. I felt like God did that for me. Mm-hmm. He was just like, hey, there's more out here. Mm-hmm. If you're just willing to look up and be open and trust me, and so walking that journey with God, man, it's been amazing. And I try to stay in that place of openness. And sometimes I am guilty of trying to take ownership of things. And God's like, no, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. I just needed you to go in there, help the situation, get it going, and now we're going to something else. And I asked God, it's probably 3 or 4 months ago, I'm like, am I just going to be a bouncer my whole life? Like, is there a place where I can just sit down and be like, yeah, this is my thing. Still have other things, but have this thing of like, well, this is my thing.
Yeah, it's like focused.
Yeah,
for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and so he hasn't answered that question yet, and I don't know what that answer is. But if I'm going to be a bouncer, then I have to come to grips with that.
Yeah,
and that's not always easy.
Yeah,
it's not always easy. So it requires that openness for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of times you but like the idea of kind of having, I guess what I'm trying to say is we like to kind of have our lives like mapped out in front of us.
Yeah.
And so we try to put this kind of end goal at some point in the future. And then kind of between there and here, we're like, okay, so I'll need to take this step and this step.
Right.
Yeah.
And we try to like think of our lives that way. And so a lot of like kind of the idea of being open is very much a contrary narrative to that kind of step-by-step idea of like what our lives are going to look like. And it's just like, I have no idea really what this is all culminating in.
Right.
And like your story, like you're saying, is like, who knows if there's a culmination to like your story, or if you're just going to be,
if I'm just zigzagging all the way to glory, I don't know.
Yeah.
And in that, like, that's not like a wasted life, because you're kind of preventing yourself from kind of being rooted in like an identity that might be separate from just being an obedient servant of Christ. Sometimes like we can let the labels and the titles of what we do kind of supersede who we're called to be, and who we are in Christ. And so a lot of it could be God just kind of making sure that doesn't take root in our lives by like, all right, I need you to go over here now. And you're like, well, why? It's like, you might have been, gotten too comfortable doing that, or begun to see yourself as something else. And so I need you to just cut that out of your life now.
Yeah, absolutely.
We actually, like, I'm in therapy right now, like with a therapist, and she actually had talked with me about that. She was like, she's like, as I hear you talk or listen to you talk about things, she was like, you kind of like have your life on this staircase effect almost. She's like, why does your life have to be like a staircase? Why can't it just be like a moving sidewalk? And I was like, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll pray about it and get back to you.
So like, you feel like you need to be constantly like improving
doing something, yeah.
Like in a positive, like in your head,
or
a positive
things need to
direction.
happen at this time. When that's done, I'll to the next thing. When I get that, then it'll be this. She said, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, life doesn't happen that way. And I'm like, to you. What do you know? What do you? Oh my God!
I want my money back.
For sure.
But it's that thing. You can get caught up in. God's called you to obsess over worrying about the steps when He's already ordered those according to His word.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's I thought of this distinction between like waiting on the Lord. We hear of this phrase kind of come up in the scriptures of like waiting on the Lord, waiting on the Lord. That, in my mind, I like think of that as like a distinct thing from like patience necessarily. Because patience kind of has this idea of like, okay, there's this like thing that I want, and usually a lot of times it's like something that like we want in the natural, like just like personally, like I want this thing. God's having me wait on Him just to be patient until the time's right for me to have that thing. But I think that waiting on the Lord is really meant to like teach us like to let go of that thing, and to just like find that in the space of rest in Him, that like it's like a teaching moment where we find that like He's actually all that I actually need. And that thing, I can just let that go, and He could give it to me, He could grant it to me and let me kind of lean into that, or He could take it away and I could go in a completely different direction, or stay right here the rest of my life. But like we're called to like learn that's fine. Like I'm not living in any lack because of that. Because if I have God, and if I have this like meaningful relationship with Him, then like nothing else really kind of matters at that point.
Absolutely.
So.
And one of the things that we talk about the word and the value of the word, right? And understanding like, if I am trusting in God, putting my faith in Him, then I've got to take Him at His word. So when He says, I will provide for you and I will care for you, He's already taken ownership of that. He's taking responsibility of what I need and what you need and what Blake needs, right? So for us to try to take ownership of that, it's saying to Him, I don't really trust what you have told me enough to just not even think about it. And again, it's one of those things where you're trying to get to a place. That's one of the things certain areas I'm very good at it. Certain areas of my life, it's like, can I just hold on to that guy? Like, I'm not really sure. But then there's other areas just like, yeah, you got it. Like, I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. He's got a plan, and I am trying to follow it the best I can. But there's other areas where I'm like, I don't know. Do I trust you enough for that? And we're always going to kind of have those, because let's just be real. God doesn't come and sit down on the couch with me in a physical form and go through my budget or go through my questions, right? Like, we don't write down stuff in a plan together physically. So it's very hard sometimes to be like, I don't know where this is going. I feel like it may be going off the rails. And I feel like I need to do something, and God's like, you don't need to do anything. And so when you get to those moments, that's where
hold on to one.
You just got to hold on. You really do. And it's not always easy.
No.
Especially like for me, my mind, I like to plan, I like to organize. And so what I've had to do is make myself not do those things.
Yeah.
Except in positions where he's like, okay, you need to plan this. You need to organize this.
Yeah.
Like putting this podcast together. He's like, no, I need you to make a plan. I need you to organize. We have our notes and things that we reference as a team.
Yeah, go all ham on your personality, like let loose. Like, I need you to be you
do
here.
that. Yeah. But then there's other places like, I don't need your help. I don't need your planning right now.
Yeah.
I just need you to do what I ask you to do.
Yeah. That's great.
We combat our feelings a lot too. So like, you can know God has something or has control of something, but it may not feel that way all the time. And like, it's like a lot of my friends my age that are still single, like, I know that he has plans for me, but it doesn't feel like that all the time. So you really have to combat that in your own mind. Really just hold on to that assurance that you have, that hopeful assurance that he's going to give you the desires of your heart. You just have to be prepared, be willing, and be open.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and be prepared for the desires of your heart to change too.
Exactly.
Because if you like hold on to that, like, God, give me the desires of my heart, like, okay, I'll submit to you, but I'm not actually submitting you because I'm still holding on to like this previous desire. Yeah. And I want you to just like change. I'm waiting for you to change your mind and like give me what I want. But like, you really just need to like let it go and let him transform you. And like, like the truth is, like, that's where you're gonna find the full joy, is like whenever you let him transform your heart and what you want out of life. Because then like he'll grant you that, and then you'll be living in purpose and a meaningful life.
I think of it a lot of ways like this, like with us raising kids. Like, I tell Kayla this a lot of times, is like, I know you're not going to agree with this, you may not like this, but I need you to trust me. And having that trust between child and parent it's the exact same thing. It's faith in something you don't know, faith in something you don't see, faith in something you don't understand. Like, kids don't get it because they haven't lived it, they haven't seen it, they haven't walked it out. But I have. And so when me and your mom say no to something, it's because we've been there and we've done that, right? We've experienced those situations already. And when we say, hey, this is probably not the best choice, you should do this, it's because we've seen this all before, but to them, it's like, well, why can't I do that? Well, that doesn't make sense. And well, why don't you let me be my own person? And it's just like, God just feels the same way about us. It's like, what? God, just let me do my thing. He's like, I've seen all this before. I've raised billions of children.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know where this is going to go.
Yeah. We talked about that in one of our conversations about like that's the value of like Proverbs.
Yeah.
And like, even if like you don't fully grant like the divine inspiration of like the Bible, like the fact that Proverbs exists, like that people who have lived like generations of lives before us, like complete lives, they've seen things, they've encountered things, went through things, and it all got condensed into like this like little nuggets of wisdom, like even just in a natural like wisdom sense. Like, you should like read the book of Proverbs, or just any of the Bible. Like the Bible, it's not just the book of Proverbs, or like
for the Bible.
explicitly like wisdom literature. Like the whole Bible is that. It's like
Yes.
kind of like people wrote this stuff down for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it's generations and generations of people like experiencing life and, you know, experiencing God as well. But like, you should be very confident that like what you're reading is like trustworthy.
Yeah.
And, you know, you should like listen to what they're saying, because people don't just like write down things, and things don't just endure for thousands of years for nothing.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. It is proven.
Mm-hmm.
And like you had mentioned in the last episode, he is a great storyteller, and he doesn't need us to pick up a pen and try to rewrite the story. Like, he's written a great story. He has shown us the way to succeed within the story, right? Like, he doesn't need us to come in there and add stuff to it or try to take stuff away from it. Like, well, maybe God doesn't really want us to do that.
Yeah.
He said it. It's in the book for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if he didn't want us to know that, he'd have been like, we're not saying that. We're not putting that out there. He'd be like, disciples, put your pen down. Don't write that.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not doing this. But he
or
put
that,
it in there for
or
a
that
reason.
writing or that letter just wouldn't have gotten into the canon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like Paul probably wrote other letters and stuff
for
that didn't
sure.
end up in our New Testament. And it's like that was all the Holy Spirit leading that process.
Yep.
And, yeah.
So, you know, it's just, he doesn't need me to figure out the earth's problems or my problems or my city's problems. He needs me to follow the direction he's already put out there for me. You know, and that's where my strength is. That's where my hope is that he knows how to make an impact with my life. I don't have to make it up. I don't have to try to make something happen or force something to happen. I just have to trust him and let him use me to leave a mark, to leave a legacy, to leave something behind that people can pick up and say, I want that for my life also. And what they see is God working in me. Not, oh, well, Dewan was awesome, let's be like Dewan. No, let's be like God. Because Dewan followed God, you know, versus, oh, he was great in this and great in that. And like, oh, I want to model my life. I'm like, no, don't model your life after me. Model your life after the one that I'm pursuing. That's the goal. That's the thing. And it doesn't mean that I always get it right, because I don't. I don't. Every single week, there's something I've messed up on. I'm like, okay, God, well, that sucked. Let's try it again.
Yeah.
You know, but understand that I am pursuing him. That's my only goal. Yeah. Is to get to him, and whatever tools he wants to use, whatever avenues he wants to use, whatever gifts he's put in me and wants to use in that season, I'm open to allow that to happen. Before I was not. Before I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I don't want to. No. I'm good with coming to church, checking my box, and going home. You know, but man, the more you get into this and you see other people's lives being affected because of your obedience, man, that's the best feeling. It is the best feeling in the world to know that because I said yes to God, it made a difference for this guy or for that guy, you know, and that's going to turn around and mean something for his family and his grandkids. And, you know, so it's about understanding, like, my life is impactful on more than just my personal level. But if you're not open to that, and if you're not looking for that, you'll just kind of go through life taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's another thing I think in like seasons or moments of preparation, is to see it as like God's preparing you so that you can bless and pour into other people. And a lot of times we can kind of think that like God's preparing me for some special thing for me to do, or something meaningful for my life, or some position or whatever. But like most of the time, like God is trying to get us like outside of ourselves and like not thinking in those mindsets, but like, you know, the times that we spend working on something or preparing our craft in something, like the end purpose of that is to like give that away, to serve others. And so like even
like mantra,
give it away, give it away, man.
Give it away, because even like kind of from 2020, end of 2020, like after Levi was born, to like, you know, a couple months ago, whenever I kind of took on this new pastoral role of the church, like that, like I had no, like what transpired kind of post that, you know, that disciplinary hand of God moment in my life, like that kind of started leading me in a direction that I didn't really like. For me, like it felt like I was just trying to like find my anchor again, like, and so like it caused me to like dive really deep into scripture and try to understand the faith that I said I believed, and like, you know, like all the doubting and things like that, and like just trying to like find my anchor point again. It's like that's kind of where it started, and then it just kind of kept going from there and growing from there, of me just like being very interested in learning about Christianity and history and spiritual things. And like I didn't really know like or have like a plan of like this is what I'm like. I was just like, it was just that openness. Like I just felt like that's just what I needed to do, and those are just my natural interests. But like I kind of see now like that, because like kind of toward the end of the summer, whenever this opportunity of this new thing like came to fruition or like started happening, like I had no like preconceptions that it was like coming, or like like I didn't like, it was kind of like I was kind of tricked into it in a little in a certain sense. Yeah, I told Pastor Bryce, I'm like, I feel like you tricked me into this.
Sometimes you're not seeing God's clear sign.
Yeah,
you need a little help. That's fine. I got
God. God is a trickster sometimes in the best way.
He definitely is.
Yeah,
he's like
he got jokes sometimes. He got jokes.
It's like the road to Emmaus, where he's like talking to those two disciples. They didn't know it was Jesus, and like in the end, he's like, yeah, Jesus.
Hey, takes off the beard, like,
yeah, surprise.
Pours his mask down. Jonah, no.
Yeah, trickster Jesus. But yeah, all of that thing was like culminating in me like giving it away now. Like it wasn't just for me to like bolster my faith or find my anchor point. Like it's so that I could help others find their anchor point and bolster their faith, you know.
So maybe a racquetball moment, but like you saying that, and you mentioning Levi, like you even talking about like pouring into something, devoting to something, giving it away. Like I hear so many people when their parents now, well, that's how my mom and dad did it, so that's how I'm going to do it. So if you really think about it, the grand scheme of your parenting, what you allow your kids to see, what you expose them to, how you like train them up, you're training them up in a way to give that away. So like one day they'll train their kids up the same way, so whether negative or positive. So if like kids see that it's okay to argue in front of like their parents or whatever, they'll continue that theme. So a lot of generational curses get started that way. So even if like being a parent, like if you're pouring into like just being mindful of like, I'm going to be giving my parenting skills away. So one day whenever Levi wants to have kids, he'll have a good like infrastructure to pull from because of what Brittany and I do, that kind of stuff. That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. That all, like I was talking with Pastor Wayne, and like kind of that implicit, you know, I didn't know that I was learning as much from him as I actually was.
Right.
And so that, I mean, a lot of just like parenting is that like you're teaching your kids a lot more than you think you are.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the things that you're explicitly like, all right, let's talk about Jesus and the fruit of the Spirit, like how I talk to Brittany, or how I even just like my tone of voice and like my facial expressions, like all of that is like instructing not just my kids, but anybody watching your life.
True.
Yep.
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, humans are visual
and terrifying too.
It is terrifying.
Yes.
Let's not think about it. Let's not think about implicit.
Like, oh shoot,
implicit bias.
People saw that.
Oh,
he's not gonna think about it. Just go to sleep. Take a nap. Let's find some rest really fast.
I hope no one's watching.
It's not all about us.
No,
God is merciful and He can redeem those things, but it's still important to remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
How you carry yourself and how you walk impacts how other people carry themselves and walk.
That's true. And people need that. Some people that don't know God need to see that.
Yes.
So they can see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And to see how you get to that place.
Right.
Because a lot of people consider Christians fake, whatever. But they don't get to see why I have peace.
Right.
Why I have joy. You know, we've talked about it before, is I get all these things because I spend time with Him.
Yeah.
And so when I go out into the world and into these situations, I'm going out equipped.
Yeah. Prepared. Yeah.
You know, I've got my peace. I've got my joy. I am settled in my spirit when I go out. You know, people are like, oh, you're always so happy. Like, I'm not always happy.
Right,
Like,
I'm a real person.
yeah, I'm a real person. Like, but I also prepare myself before I go out this door.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, what am I walking into? You know, like when we have our men's groups, I'm praying on the way there, like, okay, Lord, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. I don't know who's going to say what or whatever, but I need you to be there. I need you to speak. You know, use that time, use our voices for your message to go out. You know, it's preparing because we don't know what we're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
But if I spend that time with God, man, he gives me that peace and he gives me that confidence.
Yeah.
That he's going to show up. He's going to take care of whatever we walk into. And so I walk into places much happier because I'm not stressing about stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not worrying about, well, what do I got to do? I mean, obviously there's times it's like, okay, well, none of this one is planned. And you get a little hectic and you're like, okay, I got to scramble and pull stuff together. But most of the time, man, if you see me smiling, it's because God has already prepared me for whatever's about to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's good, whether it's bad. Like even our middle school guys, man,
Love them.
I love them, but man,
they're middle school, man.
Sometimes
they're middle school.
there's times, man, it's like, can we just have a WWE moment?
Spiritually, just for you to let out some of that pent up.
Spiritually or if it's all of the elites. All of the elites.
Top rope, please.
Yeah, we need a little pressure release here.
Yeah, but it's a different challenge, man. And I thought, you know, we talk about being open to things. I thought my season of working with youth was over. So for years, I coached youth basketball. And if you're in it for the kids, it's not even about basketball. It's about a bunch of kids who look up to you, a bunch of kids who a lot of times their parents don't pay attention, their parents aren't there. Some of those kids, I never saw their parents. Some of those kids I would have to go pick up. And I kind of became a big brother parent type deal in those things. And so I did that for years. And I stopped doing it because it stopped being fun, because parents started making it not fun.
Yes, correct.
Like, can you just cheer for your kid? Like, nobody's saving the world here. Like, this is not an NBA game.
Not the NBA. It's like high school, y'all.
Like most of these kids aren't going to make a school team, and that's fine. You know, like, just let them be kids and let them have fun.
Yeah.
And let me teach them what I can teach them. But it just became so cancerous with parents and their need to be involved and speak up and try to push their kids' agenda. And it's just like, it's not about that, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's about having fun. And so when it stopped being fun, I stopped doing it. And then God kind of transitioned me into this arena of men's ministry. And so I thought this is where I was just going to do my thing. And he's like, surprise, now you're doing both again.
Surprise, surprise.
And I was like, wait a minute. This is not in the contract. This was not in the contract.
Yeah.
But apparently it was in the fine print. So,
yes, exactly. Right. You gotta read that small print.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I need glasses to read the small print now. My goodness. But yeah, it goes back to that being open, man. Mm-hmm. And if I wasn't open to that, like, I didn't even know we would be doing this. Because at the time I said yes to going back to doing Reach and kids ministry. Kevin was still here. Mm-hmm. And it was a Wednesday night prayer. And I was in the back. I was just sitting on the camera box back there in the corner. And we were done, and Kevin was walking toward me, and the Lord was like, I need you to talk to him about helping at Reach. And I was like, wait, what? Like, no. But at the same time, Kevin's walking toward me, so I don't have time to, like, negotiate this with God. It's like,
Kevin, I'm going to need you to wait right there.
Hang on, Kevin.
I'm not done.
I got to talk to the Lord for a minute.
Serious.
I got to see if he's really telling me this. Right? And so I was like, I feel like the Lord's telling me I need to help in youth. And he's like, okay. So what does that look like? I was like, I have no idea. He literally just told me. And so we ended up going to lunch. And later he felt bad because he's like, I kind of knew I was moving on at that point, but I was like, well, if he wants to get involved, I can't just be like, I'm going to shut the door on him.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Pastor Sam came in, and I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening here. I'm like, I'm here. I'm just kind of going through the motions. And he and I have had conversation. He's like, yeah, I think you'd be great. This, and that. I'm like, wait, what? No. Who's making this list?
And checking it twice.
I'm just here. Maybe set out some chairs, break up a fight every now and then.
Yeah. Hit play on the music,
right?
DJ,
do the slides. I'm good with that.
Oh yeah.
My hall monitor. I'm fine with body slamming a kid in the hall. That's fine. Get back in there.
It'll be nothing to me.
But he started mapping out this thing, and I was like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? But it's been awesome, man. I love those guys. I would not change one bit of it.
Yeah.
But it's been challenging, and I have to. And it's only been challenging because my mindset had shifted into, okay, well, this is the season God is. Like, I felt like all of that then was preparing me for what I do now as a main thing with men's ministry. And then for God to say, well, now we're circling back, and we are now, I feel like he's created this bookend where I am operating at this beginning stages of manhood, but then I'm also operating at this other end of, we're already in the game. We've already got kids. We're already doing stuff, and I got stuff I need to heal from and get back on track from. And so it's just weird. Like, I feel like a lot of the things that I am learning from guys, I'm now able to turn around and tell these young kids, like, hey, be aware of this and pay attention to that.
And then the podcast can tell everybody.
Yeah, and then we can tell everybody.
Everybody in between.
So it's just like, I think you said it before, like, it's just this beautiful picture that he is creating and laying out, and it's just, we get to be part of it. And really, you only get to be part of it if you're open to being part of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you want to be left out, he'll leave you out of it. He'll be like, okay, you don't want to be part of this, that's fine. I'll get somebody else to do it. And so the opportunity to be part of the story that he's writing, and I don't even know where I originally heard this from, but leaving a mark that can't be erased. And he's that mark. Like, records can be broken. All these things can be removed. Right now they remove books from the library. They remove TV shows entirely because one person messed up. Shout out to the Cosby Show.
Dang.
Oh man, I forgot about that one.
Big rip.
Man, that
was like the original,
yes,
canceled.
What about the rest of the people on that show? They didn't do anything wrong, right? But
now we can't have a re-up.
You can't even watch reruns, bro.
Like, it's gone.
He's never beat those allegations.
Yes, they've deleted all the files forever.
Yeah,
like goodness. But things like that, they can be taken away.
Yeah.
But his truth and who he is and what he does can't be erased. Because if it could, they would have done it already. So he's proven over and over, like, no, I'm forever. I'm eternal. Like, y'all can forget all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I am unerasable, and so those are the things that we leave a legacy behind of. It's like, man, this is what God is doing. This is what God did. This is how you walk with him. This is how you talk with him. This is how you serve him, and like you said, just giving that stuff away. Like, I don't need to sell it to you. I don't need you to subscribe to anything and pay a subscription fee. Like, no, the gospel is free. And just give it away. Model it out. Walk it out. Do all those different things so the next generation can say, you know what? Of all those things, God was in the middle, and I can take that and run with it and build on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, tying in, we were talking about just like with like those moments in conversation where things can like shift.
Right.
Tying that in with the idea of like giving things away in preparation is like, there's always people in our lives that just kind of, they need something that we've been learning or going through. And there's just something that we can always offer anybody. And so instead of having this mindset of like, I need to kind of wait to be useful until some certain point in my life where I feel ready to be useful or whatever.
Yeah.
Just to have like an open mindset. You're talking about like lifting
Mm-hmm.
your head up, just like look around.
Yeah.
Like there's people everywhere that God has placed in our lives that need, like I said, it could be the simplest little thing, but if you're just aware and open and let the Holy Spirit lead you in those moments, like there's just something that you can do to help other people, and like you'll find so much joy in that, and that'll just like compound
Yes.
on itself, and you're like, oh, this really isn't about me, and like I get so much more joy out of life whenever I don't think
Yep.
it's about me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking out there at ways that I can just serve and help other people.
Mm-hmm.
What's that scripture that says, like, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have or for the salvation that you have? It doesn't say wait around for that to happen. Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of times people use that in like apologetic circles.
Yeah.
And kind of like argumentative kind of like basis, but like, yeah, to think of it as like a warm, just conversational, like just want to bless people. So be prepared to give them an answer for the hope that you have.
Absolutely.
Because, there's so many people that are just, they don't always show it very obviously, but, they really are like searching and hungry for something deeper than what they've been offered by a lot of other sources.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. And you say that, and I just think about how many people, like, you see people going to conferences and seminars and paying for life coaches and all of this because they're trying to figure out what their purpose is. Right. And it's just, there is no magical equation. Like, God reveals it differently to different people. Like, and it's a lot of times it's different times. And, when I was a youth coach, there was nothing in my mind that thought about, oh, I'm going to work in men's ministry. It was never a thought. Right. But at some point, God revealed that to me. And then he said, also, this also, and this also. Right. But if you are not asking God the questions and then waiting patiently on the answers while still being obedient, while still serving, while still walking it out, you don't get to just pause on everything and say, I'm not doing anything until you answer this question, or turning all of your energy on to finding this answer. Like, he unfolds it as you walk. Like, there are things in my life I didn't realize until I got to step 35. And he couldn't tell me at step 25 because I wouldn't have been ready for it. And there's certain things that, like, man, if you'd asked me 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years ago, whatever the various thing is, I'd have took off running in the other direction. I'm like, there's no way.
You're lying.
No, this is from Satan. I'm out. But when you're ready for it, then he's like, okay, now I can reveal to you a little more of your purpose and a little more of your purpose, right? Like, it's not this light comes on, like for Saul to Paul. It's not one of those situations for us. It's like, no, as we walk this out, I'm going to reveal more and more to you.
Yeah. We're all carrying a bit of revelation already.
Yeah.
And, if we just like cling to that or hold on to that as if like, whether it's some kind of a scarcity mindset of like, oh, this is mine, this is my little bit of revelation, but like you have to like find a way to like either let that go or give that away or be obedient with that and taking that step before you can like expect to receive any further revelation. And usually it's just a revelation of like who he is. It's kind of what is how it goes, is you understand more of him and his character and his nature, and the relationship deepens, but it requires that movement and application of what he's already given you. And sometimes we just kind of get stuck thinking that like this is all there is, or I need to be very careful with how I handle this. But no, like just be so bold and applying it and being obedient with it. And you won't be disappointed.
I mean, he tells us to be bold. It says the righteous are bold as lions. Right? He didn't say we're as passive as hyenas.
No.
That's a sheep.
Hyenas are like the
Hyenas are
worst.
pretty ruthless, though.
They're the worst
Man.
animals.
They're secondary predators.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you killed it. Let's go. Let's
Huh?
go over here. Let's go over here and bully him.
That'll preach. That'll preach. You get a sermon there, I think.
I feel like it's the next topic.
Yeah.
I feel like it is. Yeah, but so life is this journey. It's different places we go, different things that we touch, different people that we see. Preparation is important, but there's also things you cannot prepare for, right? And there's seasons in life that are just gonna kick your butt. Like, honestly, like you don't see them coming, you don't expect them to come. Kind of like the journey I went through when God snatched me out of drafting once and for all. I was not prepared for that, and that hurt a lot. And in those situations, like you're not preparing. Like we don't walk around with the mindset of let me prepare for everything to fall apart.
Mhm.
Right? And so when we walk into these places where everything falls apart, whether it's a job that you've lost, a family member that you've lost unexpectedly, I'm walking through some things with my older kids, that didn't really expect, whatever that is. And when we're not considering those things, right? But I feel like there's a level of preparation that God does within us that we're not keenly aware of what it's for. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just different things he's like, well, yeah, we're going to work on this and we're going to work on that and we're going to address this and deal with that. And you're like, okay. But at the moment, it seems like it's nothing.
It's not priority.
Right. It's like, okay, why do you want me to work on that? Like,
yeah, like that's never been an issue.
Right. Like, I'm not relating to that, but
Right.
okay.
Bam.
If you say so.
The bam 2020.
Yeah. You walk around the corner like, oh, I just got hit by a bus. That's awesome. So
because that course on how to deal with financial hardships was actually pretty beneficial. God, thank you.
Yes. Yes. How do you invest when there's nothing to invest in?
Sure.
So yeah, I would like to kind of go down that rabbit hole for a little bit, like things that you guys either have experienced or seen. Maybe family members have walked through some of those things. Like I remember. That's a tough memory. So my granddad lived he didn't technically live by himself. My uncle lived with him, but he wasn't there all the time. And so I would go there after school, and that's where I would hang out till my mom picked me up. Then I started driving, and so wouldn't go by as much. So it'd been one of those stretches where nobody had gone by for a few days, and because of the type of person my granddad was, he wasn't very social. Bless his heart. And sometimes I get a little antisocial, and I realize I got it from him, and that's okay. You just have to keep it under wraps and keep it in control, right?
Balance.
Yes.
It's very easy to keep antisocial things under wraps.
Yes, it's very easy.
You're not around anyone.
It's like, leave me alone.
The literal definition of the word.
Yes. It's the easiest thing to do. But it'd been like maybe 3 or 4 days, and a neighbor went over because, during the day, I mean, back in the day, man, like you just have the window air unit. So he was in his home that he'd been in forever. And so, you open the front door, you got the screen door, you got your breeze. But the door had been open for a couple of days, even at night. And so they're like, well, what's going on? And so they go over there, and he is laying on the floor. He had a stroke. He's laying on the floor on the table. He was still alive, but he never came back from that. He ended up in a senior care facility for a little bit, but that was pretty much the end of his journey. And it was unexpected. Like, yeah, he's my granddad, yeah, but it wasn't like, oh, he had this health issue that we were preparing for. It was just like, okay, now he's not here.
Yeah.
He's not the person that I've always known, and now he's gone. And the really crazy thing is, so my uncle continued to live in that house, and gosh, maybe it's been like 4 years now. Time goes so fast, guys. But he passed away in that exact same house, the exact same way.
Wow.
He was on the couch, and because he was just like my granddad, he was very to himself, unless he would go out and hang with some people, but he's pretty much to himself. So a few days went by, and so somebody went over to check on him, and he was dead on the floor. And those were two moments. Like when the second thing happened, I was like, I can't do this. Like, we went to the house. My mom is sitting on the porch. My dad's there. And I pull up to the house. I'm like, okay, like, I got to be tough for my mom, and so I go over and give her a hug. And she was like, well, do you want to go inside? I was like, no, I can't go in this house. Like, those were two moments where it's just like, this is just out of the blue. And I am not prepared for this, and it's just like, what do I do with this? And how can I help my mom through this? Because this is her dad and her brother that have both unexpectedly out of here in this house. So those are very hard seasons. I don't think I've ever shared those with anyone. But it just came into my mind, like, those are things we weren't prepared for.
Yeah.
And God has been good. Obviously, He's walked us through those things as a family. And there's a lot of things in my heart that I had to deal with through those situations. Some of it I was angry at God. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, one, but two, basically the same way. Like, what's up with that? And it just, I don't know. The biggest thing I took away from that was, because it was early on in this journey of being involved in ministry and the idea of that. But the thing he showed me and all that, he's like, what is the common thing here? And he said, these are two men who did not have community. They were just themselves. And I was like, Lord, I don't want to die in a home by myself. He's like, you don't have to. You don't have to. And so it was something I wasn't prepared for, but he turned around and used it to prepare me for something else. And it's just, people are like, well, wow, that's kind of harsh for God to do that. It's like, God didn't do that. He just used that.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why would he kill off people? I'm like, that's not what he's doing.
Yeah.
But what he is using is an opportunity to say, you know what, son, there's something you can see in this. There's a way you can grow in this, and so that's kind of my experience with, I'm not prepared for this, but here we go, type thing. I kind of hope you guys don't have something like that, but just a situation where
the one up,
life has kind of happened, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, we weren't expecting that type of thing. I know you have a little bit of something not along those lines, but as far as the unprepared.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the obvious ones is with my family and stuff. So I grew up very very like churchy, I'll say.
Yeah.
I grew up Church of God in Christ, so very very like strict Pentecostal denomination, and there was a lot of turmoil that unfolded inside the church. There was a church split, all that kind of stuff, and I have trauma brain, so like gaps my memory is missing sometimes.
Yeah.
But I remember it couldn't have been 8th grade. It had to be like my freshman year of high school. I was remember my dad took a new job, and I won't share too much because he's doing great now, but I don't want to put him out like that because it's his story to tell. But just had some family changes, and nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to experience for like the next decade and a half or so.
Right.
But a lot of up and down, a lot of like turmoil, a lot of me kind of just like trying to find out what happened. Like, how did my life start out one way and then just become this completely different, like almost like TV horror movie? It was just like, it's crazy. But I think through it all, getting back into school or getting back into church, my senior year of high school, my friend Krista, shout out to you, Krista. She invited me to come to a Wednesday night service. She's like, it'll be really cool. It's a youth service. If they give us the whole sanctuary, we have like our own youth band and stuff. It's really cool. You should come check it out. Nice. So I already had family at the church. My cousins, that's like after the church split, they started going to this church. So it was actually closer. We were going to church in my mom's hometown, which was a couple of towns over. So probably about a 35-minute drive from where I was in Morristown, my hometown. But this was like this was kind of like this town was like the last Cassis to Murfreesboro. So it was a little country town next door.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But they had a Church of God. So I started going there on Wednesday nights and really just gave all of my turmoil and my agony and all of this stuff to God. So as much pain and as much hurt as my family was inflicting on me, they did give me the groundwork for what I needed to come back to.
Right.
So God was always there. So I've been thankful for my upbringing because God has always been a part of my story. But I think me even going through what I wasn't prepared for, just remembering that I have access to the preparer is what really helped me have a baseline. Because a lot of my family was like, you should have really just turned out way different. You should have really had a different story.
Yeah.
The fact that you handled that the way I call him my papa now, like present day. He said the way that you handled that, I don't understand. I'm like, I don't understand either. But I said he was the baseline. He was always that consistent, that constant. I knew I could always fall back on, and that's kind of what helped me deal with unpreparedness. So,
yeah.
Just remember that access that I had to him. So.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's incredible that any of us turn out to be well-adjusted people, considering just how much early childhood dynamics affect the rest of our lives.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's just less than ideal. It really is miraculous and really a testament to God stepping in and filling in the gaps for the ways that we were kind of failed or whatever it might be, or just things happen, that kind of trigger those things.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that testimony in your life, Blake. So
man,
God's been good to you, man.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Through the years,
just a little bit. That's fine.
Just a little list.
Whatever scale you got that on.
It's a little scroll. Wrote a few things down. Go to the point.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. Man, this has been awesome. And we could keep going for another hour.
Yeah.
If we wanted to. I don't care either way. I just enjoy these opportunities, man.
Yeah.
Just to sit down and just kind of talk about stuff. And you realize, man, how amazing God is. You realize how into the details God is also. When you hear other people's stories and how he's like Blake just said, I could have been anything and life could have just been trash. And you know what? People would have validated that because of what you went through.
Yeah.
And well, of course he turned out that way. Look at what he went through. With those famous words, but God.
Yeah.
But God showed up.
Mm-hmm.
But I became available and said, okay, God, I don't know what else to do. Show me something. Teach me something. Walk me through this because I have no clue. And getting to those moments where we are willing to submit what we want to figure out what he has.
Yeah.
It's those moments that are life-changing.
Yeah.
Right? You think about kids, okay, you got both parents, they did an amazing job, and and that is a blessing to have both parents who do an amazing job and you come out well-adjusted and you don't have the childhood traumas and situations, right? I think that's how God intended it. But for the rest of us, there are situations where sometimes we have to hit the bottom of whatever that situation is. And everybody's bottom is different. Some people just have a high tolerance for pain and abusing themselves. And it takes a lot for them to get to that point of, maybe I need to talk to God about something.
Yeah.
But then some of us, it's like, oh my God.
Hang now.
Oh my God, I've stubbed my toe.
Jesus. Taking me.
The rapture is coming. I've stubbed my toe.
Lord Jesus, have to take my life. I don't want to do this alone.
I will never sin again. I never want to stub my toe again. but everybody has a different bottom, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, man, as we work through all these different situations and different things that we deal with, and some of the things, man, are just self-inflicted. Like we just made poor choices and walked into bad things. But when you hit the bottom of that, like God is just sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah.
Like he's like, okay, so now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm at the bottom, so I can't go.
Yeah.
There is no down from here.
Yeah.
I
think having that posture of being open and being prepared really helps you for the unprepared.
Yes.
Because even then, like to this day, you guys may see my social media. You see my other family member. I was just in back home a couple weekends ago for my cousin's. Like, he does this worship band. It's kind of like a what is it? They're called Adoration Worship. Small plug, but it's a charity band, so it's a bunch of people from different churches that lead all together. Which I did not know that. I thought it was like his church's worship band. It's not. It's these people from all over.
Nice.
But they're super super good. So they recorded some music videos and did a live recording a couple weekends ago. But me being open to my family, because my mom's little brother's family, them taking me in and really kind of just like coming alongside of me.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been completely closed off to that and being like, no, I don't want to. I want my family to be there for me, but I've allowed them to kind of really assume a lot of roles for me and support. And to this day, they still we've been closer than we've ever been. So I'm actually really excited to see them this coming week. But awesome. I could have been closed off to that and not open to it, and just kind of allowed myself to be in this like spiral mode of this terrible story.
Forget y'all.
Yeah, being open, having just a posture of like openness and being prepared helps you whenever the unpreparedness comes, because he's already promised that that's coming. So
it reminds me of like the dynamic of Peter thinking he was prepared, and he had all this bold talk about like, I'll be faithful to you, Jesus, and but he had to go through a crisis for him to realize, I wasn't prepared.
Right, spoiler alert.
For him to like actually understand what being prepared meant, and meant like putting your trust in him completely. And so we go through those crisis moments where we get put to the test. And at those moments we're offered a choice, like, are we going to put our trust in him, or are we going to kind of cling to something and try to like white knuckle it out? But that's where where Jesus says that blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the poor in spirit, God is near to the brokenhearted. Like, because they are granted just this very stark choice of like, I need to put my trust in God. Because like I've just kind of run out of resources and things that I can do myself. And so for people that don't get to those points in life, like I kind of feel bad for them in a lot of ways, that they're just able to run on their own steam for that long. It's like, because it doesn't last forever. And there will be a point in their lives where they need to make that decision, and hopefully they haven't hardened their heart so much over that long period of time where they can't make that choice. So
I think all of that is intimately. I know God is faithful. That's His name for me. Intimately. So like, put a pin in that, because that's all I'm going to say, because I'll cry. I won't. So go ahead. What are you going to say?
We're past 10 minutes if you want to try.
No.
Yeah, we passed the cry threshold. Like, it's fun.
When the recording goes off, I'll cry.
It's fun. I was just going to say, like, that's why you see some of these older people on their last days, like, weeping and like, I need to give my life to God, because they've spent 60-something years running on their own fumes and forcing life. But in reality, like, you're wearing yourself out.
Right.
And you're running yourself into the ground for no reason. Because a lot of the things you're trying to make happen and do, God is like, I was already going to do these things. Like, you didn't have to work for this or that. That's what the inheritance is about.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, He's already made stuff available to us. He's just ready to give it to us when we're ready for it. But we're out here working and trying to get there, and, trying to outdo the Joneses a lot of times. And He's like, yeah, you're not ready for that new car right now. I need you to pick up a magazine and go find a used car.
Man.
And not have a car payment right now.
You sure? No.
Even though you don't love that car.
I really want a Tesla.
Right. I can do it. I can swing it. No, you can't. It's just going to consume you. Yeah. Like, just go buy an old Chevy, an old Toyota, an old something, and get by until that season changes where, you know what, you can go buy whatever you want to because you're in that season now.
Yeah.
But people want to fast track stuff, and it's just like, it's not what it's about. It's not like this race to the top of the mountain. It's enjoy the journey.
Right. Enjoy
the walk. Enjoy the people along the way. Like, if you're just fast tracking everything, how do you have relationships?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see how you can. When my whole thing is, I got to get to the next thing, and let's go, let's make this money, let's go. I'm like, so day and night, your whole thing is, let's make this money, let's keep going, let's keep climbing.
Yeah.
There's no way you have relationships that are real. You have groupies because you have money.
Man.
But those aren't
stepping stones. You're stepping on people to get the way you want.
Absolutely, but those aren't your friends.
Yeah.
So it's
that's living your life like this. Like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like kind of in the zone, working on you, getting your thing done.
Yep.
But you just need to look up,
enjoy it, man.
Yeah. Just see what's going on around
you. Only get one shot at this thing.
Be open, be prepared, y'all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Be ready for life, and enjoy it while being open.
Nick, you did a good job. This is great.
This is awesome, man.
Nick just wanted you to think he had nothing to talk about.
Yes. He bamboozled us. That's fine.
I know how these things go.
Conversations at the rodeo.
But I think I've parked in your daughter, so I'll probably have to leave soon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're not going to work today. You're calling out.
She's calling out. She's calling out sick. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Trust God, Kaylee. Trust God.
He's going to lift your car.
My financial ruin.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it, fellas. Again, Nick, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Blake, thank you as always for walking this journey with me.
Thanks,
Mr.
Dylan.
Dill behind the scenes.
Dilly.
He's got a recent testimony of God in the details, too.
Yes.
Get him on the show.
We're going to get him a mic.
Yeah.
If you'd like to donate to the... Oh, no.
No, but also.
No, but also, yes.
Just call this number.
Yeah. We'll put it in the lower third.
It's great.
We got great value water, so...
Yes, help us.
Take a few donations.
Help us, or elevate to the next level. All right, we love you guys. We will see you on the next episode.
See y'all.
Peace out.